Hello, and welcome to today's training industry webinar, No Headset, No Problem. The challenge of scaling and validating VR has been solved, sponsored by SweetRush. I'm Danielle Murdaugh, editor at Training Industry, and I'm so happy you guys could join us today. Before we get started, I'd like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items to help you interact with our speaker and get the most out of today's program. Throughout today's event, please feel free to leave comments in the chat window and submit questions in your Q&A window. We will address all comments and questions at the end of the program during our Q&A section. We also encourage you to share the information you received today with your team and friends via social media. Please follow at SweetRush Inc. and hashtag #TIWebinars so we can interact with you online. When the program ends, you will receive a short evaluation survey that will pop open in your browser, and we greatly welcome your feedback about the content, speaker, and whatever else you'd like to see in the future. As always, today's webinar will be recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com. And after the program, you will receive a follow-up email from us that will include a link to the on-demand program for you to review again later and share with your team. If this is your first webinar with us, a special welcome goes out to you. Training Industry exists to make connections among learning and development professionals just like you. We offer tons of resources to support your role in L&D, like our articles, magazine, research reports, and our Business of Learning podcast. Training Industry is your go-to resource for learning solutions. You can visit our website at trainingindustry.com to learn more. Our objective in offering sponsored webinar programs is to allow our membership the opportunity to learn from the most innovative thought leaders in our industry. Now to get started, let me introduce you to today's speakers from SweetRush, Danielle Silver and Adrian Soto. Today, Danielle and Adrian will talk about how to leverage VR as an exciting new tool to engage learners. All right, you guys can take it from here.
Great, thank you so much, Danielle, and hello, L&D friends. I'm gonna take over the screen share here for a moment, and give me a second. Hoping everyone can see my screen. All right. We are so excited to have the opportunity to present this webinar to you all today and show you some exciting new advancements we've made in the world of web VR and immersive LMS integrations. We anticipate that our presentation today will take about 30 minutes, so we should have plenty of time at the end to get to all of your burning questions. I'd like to kick it off by introducing my wonderful colleague and Director of Immersive Technologies, Adrian Soto. A few years ago, SweetRush recognized how powerful immersive technology would be for learning and development, and that's when SweetRush merged with Adrian's company. He has a background in engineering, programming, 2 and 3D design, and all things immersive technology related. Not only is he a wonderful leader, but he's truly a wealth of knowledge from both the technical and strategic perspective. And joining his team has been such a fortuitous moment in my career personally, because it allowed me to merge my 2 passions of learning and technology.
Thanks, Danny. And Danny is our solution architect. She is our solution architect for the SweetRush XR team. I know she spends her time daydreaming ways to use immersive technology to better engage learners in new surprising ways. She has more than a decade of experience in the learning and development industry, and she's passionate about human development and a firm believer of the importance of lifelong learning. And I feel honored to be on the same team as Danny and here presenting with her this amazing webinar.
Thank you. So for those of you who are new to SweetRush, I'm happy to share a little bit about our organization. SweetRush was founded in 2001, and we've been fully remote for the past 13 years. During our 22 years together, we've been exclusively focused on people-centered services, custom learning solutions, cultural transformation, leadership development, and L&D staffing. We've won an array of industry awards by Brandon Hall and Chief Learning Officer, and we've been incredibly honored by our hosts today, Training Industry, as a top 20 company for custom content creation and a top 20 company for experiential learning technologies. In a nutshell, we are custom content creators and learning specialists who are committed to offering our learners more interactive and immersive ways of becoming better at the work that they do. We're able to create just about everything under the sun that's learning and development related, all the way from e-learning, facilitated sessions and videos, to games, simulations, as well as extended reality solutions. Because we have such a wide range of capabilities, we're able to craft solutions that are the best possible fit for our partners' needs. We're also technology agnostic. This allows us to better solve our clients' business challenges in that we're able to recommend effective solutions for them using the best suited hardware, game engines, authoring tools, and platforms. Today, we'll be talking about WebVR, a new and exciting tool in our L&D bag of tricks. I have no doubt that the majority of people here today already recognize the benefits of virtual reality for learning. So I won't spend too much time today going through the why. I will share this slide though, because it really sums it up quite nicely. We've had the honor of creating several AR and VR experiences for the Hilton Hotel Group over the years. And I love this quote from their VP of Learning because it really celebrates the power of VR. Our goal was to make corporate team members virtually sweat. We want them to understand the physicality and complexity of hotel operations so they can better feel what it's like to be in the shoes of a room service attendant. And VR does just that. It allows us to engage our bodies in a learning experience. It allows us to embody different roles and build empathy for different perspectives. And it allows us to practice and perfect our skills in safe, simulated environments. This is the evolution of our VR experiences at SweetRush. We started here, building out fully custom native VR learning applications that are downloaded and installed on a headset device. These are self-directed simulations designed to allow learners to practice and perfect their skills in a safe virtual environment. We then began to think outside of the headset. How can we collect all of that rich and powerful data that VR is able to capture and turn that into actionable information that can be used to impact behavior change? We also create VR instructor-led experiences where facilitators demonstrate concepts and guide learners, providing them with authentic real-time feedback. We build digital twins and intentionally designed multi-user spaces where people can learn, collaborate, and connect. And now we are proud to share that we've unlocked the first piece of the puzzle, WebVR. These are 360-degree immersive experiences that can be accessed on a VR headset or a desktop computer. And we believe that this is the gateway to immersive technology and a really powerful addition to your learning portfolio. For organizations who are new to VR or have the challenge of scaling immersive learning experiences to a widespread distributed audience, this is the solution for you. Finally, immersive content that all learners can experience and enjoy with or without a headset. We started researching and prototyping WebVR experiences about 4 or 5 years ago. So why are we having this conversation now? Why is WebVR a possibility now when it wasn't just a few short years ago? And we're going to highlight 2 main reasons. Firstly, learners are evolving. And here are just a few things that we're seeing in the market. Hybrid work has changed the way that our work lives and personal lives intersect. They are now deeply interwoven. Convenience, flexibility, and efficiency are top of mind. We want information quickly, we want to be able to access it when we need it, and it must fit into the flow of our days. At the same time, there is a nostalgia of sorts for some aspects of the office days, like authentic social interactions. How might technology solve this need, this desire to work remotely, and yet be together all at the same time? Current forms of media are much less effective on new generations. The new workforce is made up of digital natives. They expect experiential, discovery-based learning that leverages new technologies. As a result of this, companies are pushing for much more innovative, creative, and bold solutions with a focus on the learner experience. Job mobility is at an all-time high, bringing with it a renewed focus on upskilling and reskilling, and again, shining a spotlight on the learner experience as a way of retaining talent. These are just a few things that are bubbling up on the human side. And now let's take a look at the technology component.
Thanks. So from a tech development perspective, we're at a point where different technologies have matured and are converging. And here is where we're seeing new exciting tools that allow us to enhance or improve the way we create content for learning. I can talk about this for hours. However, we are going to focus on interactive web experiences that can be accessed both on desktop and virtual reality headsets. So first up, we have the advancements in the way 3D content is displayed by internet browsers. So remember some years ago, you had to install Adobe Flash in your computer to see and interact with 3D objects in websites. Well, we moved from that to something we called WebGL, which is a clever way to allow internet browsers to display advanced graphical information in a much better way without having to use any external plugins. This is why when you access such amazing looking web content, you no longer have to install anything to view it. Next, major advancements in cloud services allow us to scale and adapt based on demand. We can also customize to meet specific needs, integrate different types of web services, and most importantly, all of this is becoming more affordable. So one example is that thanks to this, we managed to connect WebVR experiences to learning management services. Next, broadband technologies are rapidly allowing learners to have faster internet connection. And this is amazing because now we can create richer, more dynamic 3D environments that won't take forever to load. Also, most internet browsers are evolving to facilitate the delivery of more advanced immersive experiences. This means that without downloading an application, you can use something like Chrome to explore a virtual Chinese market and learn how to speak basic Chinese, and more on this later. And finally, today's webinar's MVP award goes to WebXR, which is a relatively new technology that provides the functionality needed to bring virtual reality to the web.
So what is WebVR and why is it so exciting? My role as a solution architect means that I get to connect with clients in the early phases of the conversation to really uncover their project needs and business objectives. A large part of this work is being able to unpack their challenges and constraints and working around those to recommend impactful and effective solutions for their learners. I've spoken to so many clients over the last few years who are struggling to validate VR solutions, either due to high hardware costs, scaling challenges, or limitations in LMS integration. A trend that we're seeing among our enterprise partners is that organizations recognize the power of VR for learning. If they haven't already, they want to start building their XR infrastructure, but maybe they're not yet ready to invest in thousands of headsets. And this is where we enter WebVR, the gateway to immersive learning. WebVR experiences are web-based. They're stored in a server just like any website or web application. This means that the end user can access these experiences using a VR headset or an internet browser via a desktop computer. This is really powerful when scalability is an important part of an organization's XR strategy, because it means that everyone can consume the content, not only those with access to a VR headset. We're also able to integrate these experiences with an LMS, which helps to make the medium of VR a much more practical addition to an organization's learning portfolio. We are calling WebVR the gateway to immersive learning because it really is the perfect place to get started in the world of emerging technology. Use it as a solution all on its own, because who doesn't love more engaging learning experiences, or use it as part of a larger scaling strategy as you build out your longer-term XR infrastructure. With that, let's look at a really exciting project that we developed in partnership with Coursera. I don't know if any Coursera folk are tuned into this webinar today, but I wanted to give a huge shout out to you all for your innovative and forward-thinking culture. Coursera is always looking to push for ways to push the boundaries of what their platform can do and offer their learners more impactful and engaging ways to learn, connect, work, and create. They are true pioneers in the education space, and we are so honored to have had the opportunity to partner with them on this WebVR project. If you've ever taken a Coursera course, you'll know that they offer a huge array of course topics, and their content is typically spread across readings, videos, and assessment activities. Now, when a learner takes one of their courses, they will be able to experience immersive components as well. As part of this project, SweetRush created a series of WebVR experiences for them across topics like Chinese for beginners, Introduction to Physiology, and the public speaking experience, which I'll show you in a moment. Not only do these projects highlight the diversity of applications for WebVR, but they also really highlight the benefits of VR in that it allows learners to truly practice the performative elements of a skill. So let's get into some examples. Public speaking is one of those skills that you cannot passively learn. It is a skill that is developed by doing. In this introduction to public speaking experience, we give learners the opportunity to practice delivering speeches in front of a crowd of people. They receive live feedback on their pace, tone, projection, movement, gestures, and even where they're looking. This visual is from the desktop version of the experience. Here, learners simply use their mouse, trackpad, or keyboard to move around the space. For those learners who do have headsets, they can launch the fully immersive version of this experience, where they will find themselves on stage in a 3D volumetric space. There are two different environments that learners can choose from, either an auditorium filled with hundreds of people or a more corporate conference room setting in front of a few business executives. If learners want an added challenge, they can also decide whether they want to present in front of a restless or a calm audience. In this video, you'll notice how the avatar on the left yawns with boredom. Put your skills to the test amidst audience whispers, cell phone rings, or people distracted by their laptops. VR not only allows us to simulate the stress of delivering a speech in front of a crowd of people, but it also allows us to customize environments, which makes for much more realistic and effective learning experiences that mimic learners' real-world contexts. Now that you've seen this example, imagine any conversational use case, such as customer service training, or how to handle challenging situations, or a leader needing to give feedback or practice their coaching skills. WebVR coupled with voice recognition technology would be a powerful solution. Another powerful aspect of VR is that it allows us to travel through space and time without leaving the comfort of our own homes. In this Chinese for Beginners course, we really wanted to teleport learners to a bustling market in China. What better way to learn a language than to immerse yourself within the sights, sounds, and culture of a foreign country? As learners explore the market, they can identify items and practice listening, speaking, and applying vocabulary in realistic settings. This project is such a great example of the powers of WebVR and how it can be applied to so many different use cases. 360-degree environments coupled with stunning visuals, insightful data, and a touch of gamification make for really engaging and impactful learning experiences. In this experience, we really wanted to immerse learners inside the human body and allow them to journey through different physiological systems, up close and personal. In this 360-degree immersive experience, learners are able to deepen their understanding about blood pressure by manually contracting and expanding vessel walls and listening for changes in flow and pressure. In a later activity, they have an opportunity to interact with the patient and measure her blood pressure, now applying their newfound knowledge in a real-world medical scenario. Remember, all of the visuals I've shown today are from the desktop versions of these experiences. How learners decide to consume this content, whether it's desktop or VR headset, is entirely up to them. Another really exciting aspect of web-based experiences is that we can integrate them with other learning software, such as Adapt or Articulate Storyline. Gone are the days when VR was thought of as a novel or standalone experience. Now we can better integrate immersive content with your wider curriculums and create learning journeys that are intentional, impactful, and really celebrate the virtues of the various modalities that we have in our L&D bag of tricks. And with that, I'll hand it over to Adrian to tell us a little bit more about how it works.
Thanks. So remember, just like any website or almost any web content, WebVR experiences are uploaded to a server where you can access them from your computer or a headset using an internet browser. However, when we're speaking of web content that is used in learning, there's a huge component that you are all very familiar with called the learning management system. And here we had one significant challenge in making WebVR a feasible type of content in the learning space. To solve this, we created what we're calling the WebXR LMS integration tool, or LIT for short. So in a nutshell, what it does is allow for WebXR experiences to first be launched from your LMS. Second, to provide continuity from the course the learner is already taking to a point where the learner gets to choose to continue the course either on their VR headset or on their personal computer. And then lastly, to bring back metrics from the learner's performance in that WebXR experience to the LMS so that the learner can continue with the course. One of the most important aspects here, and what triggered the creation of such a powerful title, No Headset, No Problem, is device optionality. As I mentioned before, within your LMS or current learning content, the learner gets to a point where the option to continue to the next stage in their learning process is presented. What happens here is, once a selection is made, the learner is taken to this amazing and engaging WebXR experience that they're able to use with the device they selected. Another thing that happens is that this experience also knows who you are and any other information that's relevant to the learning journey. Once finished, you can continue with your normal course, and any information that was gathered, such as completion, is reported back to the LMS. One cool aspect of such dynamic experiences is that they provide a huge opportunity to collect all sorts of information. A simple example is completion, but another more complex example could be a set of voice analytics captured during the learner's participation. An LMS usually won't have a way to show this information. So we had to build an in-between feature that we call the Lit Analytics Dashboard. This will show any data that's gathered that can't be sent to the LMS. And I'm going to speak briefly on how WebXR compares to native VR applications that are installed on your headset. But first, I wanted to share what we're using WebXR Lit, that we're using it with current SweetRush clients. And I can speak to the fact that we designed it with flexibility in mind, using industry best practices so that it can be easily integrated in other platforms, and also to help VR developers and LMS vendors. Okay, so finally, how does WebXR compare to a native VR application? Well, first, WebXR, as any other type of web experience, relies heavily on your internet connection and speed. Native applications, once you download them and provided that they don't need to stream any other type of content, won't need such much or any internet connection at all. Based on the level of immersion, both of them are immersive experiences. However, currently, complex interactions and visuals are better handled by native applications running directly in the headset. And scalability is a huge win for WebXR. Since you don't need to purchase additional hardware, you can reach more learners while you progressively acquire more headsets. And finally, when it comes to LMS compatibility, thanks to the integration tool, both options are equally good.
So let's have a look at when WebXR is best. So remember, we think of VR as one modality in our L&D toolbox. When we work with clients, we look at their content and we help them to identify use cases that really celebrate the powers of virtual reality. When designing learning journeys, we might recommend that knowledge-based content be delivered via an e-learning module or a video, for example, and then extract the practical application component to be brought to life through immersive technology. Here, we want to give learners an opportunity to apply what they've learned and put their skills to the test. So one of the questions I get asked most frequently is about VR use cases and applications. In the past, we were seeing predominantly technical training use cases. Imagine a manufacturing environment where using your body for hands-on practice in a safe environment can offer incredible return on investment. Faster time to proficiency and fewer errors, which can be for very safe and expensive equipment. And this is still a great use case for VR. But now we're seeing interest in immersive technology across a whole spectrum of use cases, from human skills, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and leadership. to those harder technical skills as well, so the full spectrum. So think about things like onboarding or a day in the life of experience or empathy-based experiences. One of the powers of virtual reality is putting yourself in the shoes of another and getting to explore different perspectives. We're now able to track how people are responding in challenging situations, like delivering and receiving feedback or having difficult conversations. Not just the words they're using, but the sentiment that they're using as well in their tone. That's really powerful for both skill building and assessment. So when we think about virtual reality content, we typically categorize it into 3 groups: passive, semi-active, and active experiences. These help to distinguish the experiences by their level of immersion or the degree to which learners have agency within the virtual spaces. A passive experience is one where learners can observe the environment around them. So think a virtual tour or a decision-making simulation, for example. In a semi-active experience, learners have more agency to move around and explore the 360-degree environment. In an active experience, learners now have full freedom to move around a 3D volumetric space and can even physically interact with objects within the environment. Passive and semi-active content lend themselves really well to both WebVR solutions and native VR applications. For an active experience, we may recommend a native VR application over WebVR so that we can really simulate advanced interactions and mechanics. But let's look at some examples. This is an example of a passive experience. We created this project for the Hilton Hotel Group. It was designed to give operational staff members empathy into what it's like to be a hotel guest who might not be receiving the best service. We wanted learners to experience the frustrations of a guest who has been traveling for hours and is now stuck at the front desk queue waiting to check in, or a guest who has served the wrong order at a restaurant, or a guest who books the conference room for an important meeting only to arrive and realize that the room has not been set up properly. By experiencing guest frustrations firsthand, learners were better able to serve their guests with excellence. After this experience, 95% of learners agreed that they now had more empathy for hotel guests. You'll notice that this is a 360-degree filmed experience. We sent specialized cameras to a Hilton hotel to film the space, and the scenarios were brought to life by professional actors. With this approach, when learners put on the headsets, they feel like they're actually in a Hilton hotel interacting with real guests. This type of project works really well in the context of WebVR. In fact, we originally built this as a native VR application and are now looking into converting it to WebVR so that it can have an even wider reach. Moving over to a semi-active and more safety-related use case, this is a project we developed for an Automotive client. Here, learners need to explore this 360-degree warehouse space and identify 15 safety hazards within a set period of time. The passing score for this experience was 12 hazards. We noticed, though, that even when learners received their passing score, they kept repeating the experience until they found all 15 hazards. So that was a nice metric to show that learners were really motivated and enjoyed the experience. Another fun fact about this project is that the 3D assets that you see here were leveraged within the client's e-learning courses as well. While we're huge technology nerds and are passionate about all things extended reality, we're also learning specialists at heart. And so we get all the feels when we see virtual reality and augmented reality being considered as part of a broad learner journey or portfolio of experiences. This is another great example of both WebVR and a VR application. And lastly, let's look at an active experience. This is another project we created for the Hilton Hotel Group and the one that we opened this presentation with a little while ago. The idea of this project was to put new business executives in the shoes of operational staff. We created a series of scenarios, including this kitchen scene, as well as a front desk and room cleaning exercise. We wanted to give them a sense for what it's like to work at the hotel, another example of a powerful empathy-based experience. This was a timed scenario to see how many room service trays they could put together before the clock ran out. So really simulating that stress of working in the kitchen with multiple orders coming in at the same time. Here you can see learners in a computer-generated kitchen space. They're using their hands to put together room service trays. It is a very physical and interactive experience. This is one where the whole body is very activated in a procedural task. Other use cases where active presence is critical is in technical or safety-related experiences. Depending on your context, we may recommend a native VR application for these types of learning experiences. Every use case is so unique. We would really like to work with you to explore the possibilities. So if you have a specific project in mind or would just like to explore areas where WebVR would be a good fit for you in your organization, please reach out to us and we'd be delighted to schedule some time to connect. And with that, I would like to wrap up today's presentation with so much gratitude to you all for your sharing your time with us today. Our XR team is so excited about this technology and how it can be used to not only elevate learning, but also easily scale immersive content to large distributed workforces. And with that, I'd love to open up the floor to hear some of your reflections and questions.
All right, well, yes, everyone, please pop open your chat and Q&A window and leave your speakers some questions. We have a lot. I think I'll go ahead and just scroll up and start with some that I saw in the chat. Okay. So let me see. I think one person had asked, do you have any sample course for topics such as workplace safety as well?
I think the automotive example that I just showed is a good example of safety, but absolutely safety is a perfect use case for WebVR. So think of a scavenger hunt type of activity or any similar interaction where learners explore a virtual space and look for hazards and identify items that might be potential dangers or put people at risk.
Great. All right, so here's a question I found in the chat as well that had popped up. What's the turnaround time to build low, medium, complex content on WebVR - Ballpark? Or I guess like the Ballpark time.
Yeah. So low, if we're doing something really passive without too much interactivity, I would say 3 months, 2 to 3 months on the lower end. Medium would be 3 to 4 months, and high would be 4 to 5 months.
Right. It looks like someone here would like to ask, how do the hand controls work on the desktop? They're looking at the physiological example where the hands on the screen that the learner, I don't know, I'm sorry, the last part was a little wonky the way they wrote it, but overall they would like to know, how do the hand controls work on the desktop?
I'll throw that question over to Adrian.
Thanks. So when designing for this, when you're designing for projects that have multiple devices, you have to design for the lowest common denominator one, and you have to use very clever UX techniques. So even though on the VR headset, you're actually using your hands, on the desktop computer is a combination from like your mouse, point and click, and the keyboard.
Right. All right, so just a reminder, if you guys have any questions, just throw them in the Q&A because reading them off of the chat is a little challenging. So I'm just going to jump over to the Q&A. If you left a question in the chat that I haven't answered yet, go ahead and put it in the Q&A. All right, so starting with this one, an attendee wants to know if your technology can be used to train learners in high school and apprenticeship programs for the semiconductor industry.
Adrian, I see you nodding.
No, absolutely. That would be amazing use of this. Yeah, no more burned boards that you have to throw away.
Awesome. Let's see. So we have a question here from an attendee. How secure is WebVR? Do companies have to consider other secure connections or implement changes to accommodate VR connections via browser?
Another Adrian question. You'll notice that all the technical ones go his way.
Can we repeat that? I was reading one of internet protocol, but
yeah,
can you repeat that one? Sorry.
Yeah, so how secure is WebVR? Do companies have to consider other secure connections or implement changes to accommodate VR connections?
So it works like a normal website. The engines that we use to create web VR experiences can also be run within a company's infrastructure. So you wouldn't need to have access to internet. You can use them within your company's local network. in case security is very strict. So it's pretty flexible.
All right. Broken
Can I
down
jump-
these questions, have a lot.
Can I jump in with one? I have an old colleague from South Africa. Hi, TD, Tanya. I see your question. Does this technology mean we can develop once and then either use it with the headset or the web version, or is it two separate development phases? And the answer is we develop one experience that is accessible on multiple different devices. So that's why, as Adrian was explaining, we design for the lowest common denominator being desktop. And so that's where the limitations in interactivity can come in. So one experience, multiple devices, but if you're wanting advanced experiences, there is a way that we could develop two different work streams so that we can achieve those more advanced mechanics on both a desktop and a headset as well. But the one benefit of WebVR is the dual optionality there with the one build.
I would add I would like to add something. Someone asked if you could use your mobile device to access this. And just like Danny said, we need to design or take into consideration the lowest common denominator. In mobile devices, you basically have your finger. So it would limit a lot of the interactive capabilities, but it is possible, just knowing that that would be a consequence of designing with like a phone in mind.
Great. Awesome. Well, next question. Does there have to be LMS integration for this to work? Say if you embed an articulate storyline.
I'm going to throw that one to Adrian as well.
I apologize again. They're really interesting also questions that I was reading. Can you repeat that one?
That's okay. Yeah, don't worry. I'll read you all the questions. And again, if you're popping stuff in the chat, go ahead and put in the Q&A so I can read off your question. But does there have to be LMS integration for this to work? Say if you embed an articulate storyline.
So what we expect from the LMS is user information. So it absolutely can work. We need to figure out how to determine who's taking the course, or if you have a different type of user access control, we could pull the information from that. And then you would need a place to track information if you wanted to. So if you don't want to use your LMS to track it, that's why we have the analytics dashboard, and it could be stored there.
It looks like we have another LMS related question. I don't know if this is kind of the same, but what protocol do you use for sending analytics back to the LMS? Do you ever run into problems with the LMS not accepting your analytics?
So we built this to work with LTI protocols, XAPI as well. So it's very industry standard. It's super flexible. So if we run into any sorts of issues with communication protocols or in something not being compatible, again, web is very flexible, so I'm pretty sure it could be adapted.
Great.
Happy to work through the next 3 questions. So one, do you have any road safety course? We have a client who manufactures tires. So we work with them to create VR and AR experiences that are linked to new launches of their tire technology. And so we have a few VR experiences where it's not necessarily road safety, but we're simulating what it's like to drive using a particular tire. And that's kind of a powerful storytelling experience. We've got, you in the car, you've got your children in the back seat, and we put you in different somewhat dangerous scenarios like a dirt road or a snowy road. And you've got a car coming towards you, and you want to be sure that your vehicle is going to stop safely. So it's more of a passive type experience, but absolutely road safety is something that we could bring to life in this type of technology. And do you hire actors for your experiences? So this depends on the approach that you want to take. And again, at SweetRush, we're custom content creators. So everything we build is very much custom and in line with your learning objectives, in line with your branding and style. And so we make all of those decisions together. So one route that you could take is that the filmed approach, which is the one Hilton project that I showed you. So we would use specialized 360-degree cameras to film the space together with live actors to bring scenarios to life. Another option is to use fully computer-generated environments with avatars and simulate conversations or any type of interaction through a more animated approach. Pros and cons to each, it's very much a personal choice. The animated approach gives you more control for future changes and modifications and things like that. Whereas once you've filmed a scenario, it's much harder to edit that going forward. But it also does offer a much more realistic type of experience. So again, these are things that we would love to work together with you to explore. We'd look at the different types of experiences and different types of content and make those design decisions together. And let me see, any sample courses for legal trainings. We have not done legal trainings yet on the XR side of the business. We have done a lot of compliance work in more e-learnings, videos, and simulations. But of course, we could simulate legal situations, conversational simulations, and bring those types of experiences to life.
Can I answer a cherry-picked one, which
Yes.
I found super interesting? Someone asked, any device like Nintendo Switch, or car wheel can be connected or used with it. So the way WebXR works on the VR side, it wouldn't be possible, we would need to figure that one out. But on the desktop side, you can for sure connect controllers that are Bluetooth, for example, or USB driven. That would be interesting for there's some questions on accessibility. So you could potentially develop your own controllers in case you needed to. And also, I think that's a very exciting space to get very creative, like how you physically interact with WebVR.
Great. All right, so I can hop back in. What type of experiences are best for brand new VR users unfamiliar with the technology?
I would say WebVR is a great place to start. It means that everybody can access the content, so you're not excluding anybody. And it also means that it's easy to scale. It's easy to integrate with other learning solutions. So if you're somewhat overwhelmed around where to start, you don't understand the different headsets and what are the implications of those decisions, I'd say WebVR is a really, really great gateway into this type of XR space. And from there, you can start building out into more advanced solutions. I will add that we also offer an XR workshop in general, which covers everything that one might need to know about immersive technology as it relates to learning. So if that's of interest, please reach out. It's about 2 hours worth of content, and we cover everything from how to create VR content, what are the different types of headsets and pros and cons, and authoring tools versus custom development. So lots of great content in there if this is a new space that you're wanting to get into and just want some more information.
All right. Looks like we have another question about WebVR and using it with LMS. Can you speak more about the interaction between the WebVR and the different LMSs that clients can have?
So it's a very general question. I mean, mostly the interaction is the exchange of information, whether it's user account management or user information that could be imported and used in the experience, and then information that's fed back to the LMS. And that could be anything that relates to a learning objective. And just to answer a two for one, someone asked, can gaze be tracked, or what sort of things can be tracked in WebVR? Gaze is an example of something that absolutely can be tracked. That's generally where people are looking at any given moment in time. So that can absolutely be tracked. And if the LMS has a way to reflect that information can be pushed to the LMS. And if it doesn't, again, that's why we have the analytics dashboard.
Here's a good one. From an onboarding perspective, what success metrics have you seen with using VR through this experience? For example, retention, tech savvy capability, engagement.
So all of the above, I think, and what will be interesting is the Coursera examples that we just showed you launched officially, I think about 3 weeks ago. And since their launch, I think there've already been a few thousand people take those immersive experiences. So we're really looking forward to seeing all of the insights and metrics that come out of that from a retention perspective, from an engagement perspective. But those are definitely the trends that we're seeing, that people are motivated, people are surprised, which is also always a good metric. You know, we want to surprise and intrigue our learners because, you know, capturing their attention is half of the battle won. So absolutely, we're seeing some really favorable and positive metrics coming out of these experiences.
It looks like an attendee would like to know the feasibility of training blue-collar workers in a manufacturing setup using WebVR, and I guess just use cases and examples of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a great use case. We do a lot of work in the manufacturing space, all the way from more simple safety related use cases, so identifying safety hazards in a warehouse, for example, all the way through to very advanced interactions, changing mercury lamps or tweaking or, you know, using tools to and turning valves to a specific degree or at a specific speed. So we're able to really develop those very nuanced mechanics and interactions using virtual reality and allow learners to practice in a safe space without damaging really expensive equipment or injuring themselves or others. So manufacturing is a perfect use case for VR, and WebVR in particular solves that challenge of, you know, the headset scalability. So when we're dealing with multiple different spaces and manufacturing sites, often they're spread out globally. WebVR is absolutely a great place to start.
And someone's asking about accessibility.
Hot topic.
Yeah, there are questions around that. So what we do is we reference a lot the game accessibility guidelines, which are referenced by the Web Accessibility Initiative with Web3C. So that's what we use as reference. And maybe you can reach out later to discuss it further, but we have a table where we say, how can we solve each of the points? So I'll paste the link on the chat of the guidelines as a reference.
Yeah.
Awesome. And were you just speaking about the 508 compliant? Was that what you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
great. Just making sure, because you were saying and it sounded, because we have a lot of questions about that. So good.
Yes, so just, and I'll add on to it. So accessibility is a hot topic at the moment. It comes up a lot in our conversations. And so it's something that we're constantly improving and working upon and building upon. So a lot of the guidelines, the 508, WCAG, they're black and white. You either tick all of the boxes or you don't. So from that perspective, we're not quite there yet in terms of them being fully compliant with these guidelines, which is why we're basing our work more on the game accessibility best practices. So when you look at WCAG or some of the other guidelines, they're designed for websites. What we're building is more of a simulation or a game. And because of the 360-degree nature of the experience, it's very challenging for screen readers to track it in the way that it would with a website in a kind of a linear way. So to get around that, we're building out an accessibility panel, which gives learners the ability to basically customize their preferences. So color contrasting, size, closed captioning, transcripts, all of those things. So we're doing our absolute best to make these as accessible as possible, and we hope to have them fully compliant at some point in the future. And so again, what we'd really love to do is just work with clients to understand what are their requirements, what are the key needs. And as Adrian mentioned, we have a whole list exploring each of the different line items within each of these guidelines and how we propose to solve them.
Awesome. And sorry if it looks a little dark in here, the automatic light turned off and I have to do what I have to do.
Okay.
So is there any link to have a demo on leadership training and delivering feedback using WebVR technology? I'm thinking maybe they're asking for like a demo on leadership training and delivering feedback using WebVR technology.
I'd love to set up a demo with anyone who's interested. So definitely reach out. The details are here and we can set up a demo. We can show you some more examples, some more use cases that we've created, and just talk about, what your specific needs are and how we can help. Again, without hopping on the point, we're custom content developers and we're also industry agnostic. So we develop content across a whole range of different industries, from retail, hospitality, manufacturing, finance. So absolutely, we'd love to connect with you. And I'm sure we have a couple use cases that we can show you as well.
All right. Awesome. So how can WebVR be used in employee engagement activities? So I guess maybe they want some specific examples about some engagement activities WebVR can be used for.
Well, I think the solution in itself is really engaging. In terms of employee engagement, could it be things like onboarding or a day in the life of experience? Or I wonder if we want to talk about social experiences, potentially. That's something that we're prototyping with at the moment, and whether we might have multiple learners coming into the space. So really, there's so many ways that we can use WebVR for engagement. The options are endless.
We have so many questions here. I'm trying to look through them to see which ones you guys haven't really answered yet, or touched upon as well. Let's see. So can you talk about the virtual collaborative learning spaces I saw in the intro? Examples, advantages, use cases.
Absolutely. So I think pre-pandemic, we were seeing trends around, give me my training. I just want to learn in my own time by myself. Let me do the thing. Whereas now we're seeing the opposite. I think now people are craving social interaction coming out of, pandemic life and now hybrid work. So how can we use technology to create those social spaces in a way that is authentic as well? So VR is a great way to do that. We have a virtual treehouse at SweetRush, for example, and this is our virtual collaboration space. So whoever within the company has headsets can meet in there to collaborate or ideate or just get together. And my first time in there, I was just really intrigued by getting a sense of someone's height. You don't get that kind of interpersonal information through a Zoom conversation like this, and what that does for co-presence and immersion. Spatial audio, there's a lot to be said about meeting someone in a more authentic way. Obviously, best case would be in person, and if that isn't a possibility, I think VR is second best. And then we can use it for multiple learners coming in to either practice performing a particular skill. We have a multiplayer manufacturing experience at the moment, so learners can come in, they can walk through a procedure together, they can practice implementing that procedure. A facilitator can join them in the space and guide them and provide feedback. So lots of really powerful things that come out of a social VR experience as well.
Nice, great. All right, well, we have a few more minutes, so I'm going to ask probably about a couple more questions. I see that Adrian is having an answer for the question about the languages, but if you just want to answer for everybody, how many languages does WebVR support?
Again, it's custom, so as many languages as you need. We'd love to explore the use cases with you. We've just wrapped up a program in Japanese. So, again, languages is something that we can custom embed, whether it's a menu where you can choose your own languages, or whether it's an experience that is specifically designed in one specific language. So we've got Japanese, the Chinese experience that you just saw. Absolutely doable.
Nice, great. All right, so let's see, one more question. Here we go. In terms of analytics, do you track the user's movements, gaze, etc. within the experience?
Yes, so it can be tracked. And it depends if your LMS can present that information, and if not, we have the analytics dashboard to do that.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Adrian and Danielle, for just such a great presentation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There we go. And yeah, just thank you again for just being the presentation today, and thank you all for you guys tuning in. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. So I'd just like to go ahead and give a shout out to you guys and to our speakers. And to wrap us up, I'd like to invite you guys all to our upcoming training industry webinars, as you guys can see on our screen. You can register for this webinar and watch past webinars now at www.trainingindustry.com. Also, as a reminder, all training industry webinars are pre-qualified for a credit hour by SHRM, HRCI, ISPI, and CPTM. What is CPTM? It is a certified professional in training management program that assists you in developing core competencies that will empower you to manage the future training needs of your organization. Get a seat at the executive table. You can participate in a number of programs held within the US. Find out more information on our website at trainingindustry.com/training. We also hope to see you in person at the next Training Industry Conference and Expo happening this June in Raleigh, North Carolina. One last reminder that an evaluation survey should have popped open in your browser in another tab in your browser, and we would greatly welcome your feedback about today's content, the speaker, and whatever else you'd like to see from us in the future. Thank you again to today's speakers, Danielle Silver and Adrian Soto. Thank you so much, you guys. This was a really great presentation, a lot of great information. And to our sponsor, SweetRush, thank you. And thanks again to all of you for your time and attention. From Training Industry, I'm Danielle Murdaugh. Until next time. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks for
Bye.
having me.